Hey, true crime fanatics, this is Claire.
And I'm Andy.
You're tuned in to the Homicide Hobbies podcast, which is a podcast for people who love to hear about the horrendous crimes that people commit. Enjoy. What are we talking about today?
So today's case, we'll discuss a man named Rafael Castillo. And I'm going to tell you, this is a fairly recent case. He murdered a woman in 2020 and was just sentenced in 2022.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, so pretty recent. This case hails from South Texas. Some trigger warnings for our listeners, not for you, Claire, because you don't deserve the triggers.
I like to be surprised.
So then plug your ears. But I guess
Then
you can
how
call
do
it...
I know when to unplug them?
We'll let you figure that one out. But I guess you can call it torture. He dismembers this woman while she's still alive. So
you guess you get to call it torture?
Well,
Andrew, I feel like that's the definition.
So in the articles, they just say that she's dismembered while alive. But I feel like that is torture. So
yeah, I'm going to tend to agree with you on that.
So that's our trigger for today is...
It's a big fucking trigger, if you ask me.
is torture and dismemberment while alive. And then also there is drug use in this case, or mention of it. There's also the reference to...
I'm less inclined to be triggered by the drug use, and more of the I'm alive and dismembered is bothersome for my brains.
Well, whether you want to call it torture or dismemberment or one and the same, either way, this case is pretty brutal. And also, as we've mentioned in other cases, the more current the case, there tends to be less background information on the people involved. So I've got what I've got. I don't have...
2022, I feel like they haven't had time to talk with the feller after he went to jail.
Yeah. And so here we go. Our murderer is 27-year-old Rafael Castillo. Like I said, I don't know a lot about his back history, but in 2019, so he would have been 26, he was arrested for kidnapping. However, that case was dismissed due to a lack of evidence, but the little bit I could find on that case, a man named Devin Gomez, who was 27, and Rafael Castillo were arrested on suspicion of kidnapping and robbery, according to the Bexar County jail records. The victim reported that he was robbed by Devin and Rafael and two other people. The victim said his kidnappers, it was 4 men that...
Do they participate later on?
I'm not sure if Devin does, because, again, this is a recent case, so a lot of the names of the people involved were really hard to track down. I did find some, but this guy, Devin and Rafael, and the 2 other people, the victim said they forced him into a red Nissan when they saw him at a convenience store. According to the victim, the kidnappers took him to Devin's home, where he was assaulted and robbed. They took his phone, his wallet, and his other belongings. The victim somehow escaped these 4 men, ran from the house and to a store that was on the corner, where he called police. He was beaten so severely, he was hospitalized in critical condition for several days.
Shit.
Yeah, so the victim told police, by the way, that he was good friends with Devin and Rafael, and that they saw each other on a daily basis. I don't feel like that's a good friend. I feel like we need to...
You don't feel like that's a good friend, Andrew? I'm sure glad that your friends don't kidnap you and leave you in the ICU.
Right? I feel like somebody needs to sit down with this man and let him know.
We're real good friends. We're so close. He left me in the hospital for a couple days, but he sent a card and some flowers.
And said, don't tell anybody nothing. But that case gets thrown out because of lack of evidence.
Refuse to testify?
I guess.
Because that seems to be the way the system works, is no victim, no crime.
No crime. So now for the current case of the day, we're going to talk about the victim. Her name's Nicole Perry. She was a mother of 3 girls. When she's murdered, her daughters are 10, 11, and 15.
Were they close friends, or did he not know her at all?
They know each other. I don't know who the father of her kids were. She is homeless and currently, or at the time, was engaged to another individual.
Well, he can't coast over that. She's homeless and engaged to someone?
Her and her fiance are homeless.
Okay.
And her fiance's name is Randall Fulgham. He's a known drug user with a lengthy criminal history. They'd been homeless for a while and had been staying on and off at a known drug house at the 300 block of West Harlan in Texas. The drug house they were staying at has a room off the side of the house,
For prostitutes.
or it's like detached. It looks like a little Cape Cod. I do have a picture of the house. I think there was like a shed that was like semi-attached to the house or like right off the back of it. But the homeowner would let people, like there was a revolving door of homeless drug addicts that would stay there. And at the time of Nicole's murder, her fiance Randall, our murderer Rafael, and a man named Gizmo were all staying in that shed or the room
Please tell me that
together.
was his nickname.
It is. I don't know his real name, but it is. But they call him Gizmo in the reports. So,
well, it makes me feel a little bit better. Name their children.
And then Gizmo has a girlfriend. So these 4 to 5 people are staying in this one room of this drug house together. I find it quite lovely that the homeowner not only allows the selling of meth from his house, because it's a known meth house, but also those meth purchases come with a free room and board.
Well, is it a case of that person is like getting free drugs because of it? Or is it a case of they're trying to give people an opportunity to a leg up kind of scenario?
No, the way I interpreted it was that the
homeowners partaking.
And these people are getting high and more or less just passing out. So
there are people mixed feelings about that. Of just, it's at least a safe place for them to get high rather than them wandering around. I'm not one of those people.
Turns out this girl's murdered in this house, so it ain't too safe.
Well, it's just somebody's personal feelings. People who would do that, just like with the underage drinking, they'll allow their children to do that because they think it's safer for them to do at home, but really probably shouldn't be something they're doing.
Yeah. I feel like if you condone it, you're just opening that door.
They're going to do it regardless, and just because you think they're only doing it at home doesn't change that they're doing it not at home.
Yeah. According to the homeowner, Nicole, our victim, and her fiance Randall were arguing in their room, so he left. Apparently, Nicole and Rafael got into an argument because Rafael felt Nicole was being disrespectful to Randall. Does that make sense?
Are they all high at this point?
I have no idea if they're high, but that is the current situation. So Nicole and her fiance Randall are bickering, and then Rafael decides to insert himself into their argument because he felt she was being disrespectful to her fiance.
Do we know what they were arguing about?
No, we sure don't. But Rafael tells Nicole to shut up and be quiet or she won't like the results. Which again, if I was arguing with Jason and somebody decided to insert themselves in our argument, I'd be like, dude, back off.
But what do you have to argue about? You're homeless.
I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe she doesn't want to be there. Maybe
they're arguing over drugs. Years.
I don't know how long they were staying there, but he's a known drug user and has a criminal history. Maybe she was a good girl. I could not find. She has a very common name, much like a lot of victims out there. They're not going to publicize her criminal history if she has one. You know what I mean?
Like Charity. So, but she dies, right?
Yes, she does.
One of those don't
victim shame and drag her name through the mud. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if she's high. I don't know what they were arguing about, but nonetheless, they were bickering, and Rafael told her, shut up and be quiet or you're not going to like the results. She obviously does not shut up, and Rafael grabs Nicole and duct tapes her hands together and bounds her and tosses her onto the couch. He told Randall to stay put and shut up while waving around a pink camouflage gun.
The hell did you get that?
I don't know, but it made me laugh when I read that it was a pink camouflage gun. I know it shouldn't make me laugh. It's still brandishing a weapon, but still. I forgot to send you a picture so you could know what this guy looks like, but he's a pretty big dude. Like, I don't know how he's doing meth, and he's 300 plus pounds.
He's not using it for dieting.
Sure isn't. He's eating good, which is crazy since he's homeless. He was quoted as saying he wanted to make an example of this young lady. That's what he's quoted as saying.
Like,
I'm going to make an example of
what?
this young lady.
For who?
At the time of this assault, there's 10 people in the room. The other people in the
Jesus.
the other people in the house thought it was just a scare tactic to shut her up. But then
How is
Rafael,
that even a tactic?
I don't know. I think that I have my own suspicions, and I'll get to my suspicions in like 2 sentences. But everybody just assumed he was duct taping her hands because he wanted her to shut up. But then Rafael leaves the room and comes back with a machete. Rafael walked up to Nicole, looked down at her and said something, but nobody in the room could understand or hear what he said. The witnesses in the house all thought that Rafael would put the machete down after scaring Nicole into silence. But instead of putting down the machete, Rafael raised it above his head while she's still alive, fully conscious, and Rafael chopped her hands off with the machete. It took Rafael 3 whacks to fully chop off both of her hands.
What pieces of shit are in that house?
Meth users. At this point, her fiance said that he saw Nicole was profusely bleeding on the floor. She
That's
fell
what
off the
happens
couch.
when you lose your hands.
Sure
Asshole.
is. And I'm guessing that Raphael's not a professional executioner that can bring up a blade and bring it back down the exact same spot. So I'm guessing this poor woman. The witnesses said she was on the floor moving around. She never said a word, but she was lying on her side and kept moving around and raised her head.
Duct taped.
Yeah, but she kept raising her head, looking around the room, most likely looking for her fiance. Raphael then tells her, "Stop moving around." If she didn't say anything and she's not, I'm assuming, not screaming, I'm going to guess she was high. And I also think, now I don't
Could
know
all be
this.
high and stupid.
So I don't think, okay, so this is just my opinion. I have no proof of anything. Nobody, it's not in anything that I've read. But I think because he said he wanted to make an example of her and he duct taped her hands, I'm wondering, and he got involved because he said she disrespected her fiance. I'm wondering if she smacked her fiance. You know, some women get kind of hostile and handsy when they're mad. I'm wondering if that's why he duct taped her hands, because she was hitting him. Like maybe she was mad, like super mad, and she smacked him. So Raphael decided to insert himself, tapes her hands, and chopped him off. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that made an example to all the other folks in the room of, you don't hit people. You don't hit people, but you also don't chop off their arms.
I was gonna say you don't hit people, but you also don't bring a machete into the situation.
Oh,
Two wrongs don't make a right, is what Thumper's mom told me.
I thought Thumper's mom said, if you ain't got nothing nice to say, you say nothing at all.
Well, shit. Who said the other one then?
Our mom.
Well, fuck.
Anyway, as if having her hands chopped off while alive isn't good enough, Raphael walks out of the room, comes back with a black axe. He raised it up and brought it down, smashing it into Nicole's skull, where he got it lodged in her head, killing her. The homeowner said at that point, due to all the chaos, he returns to the room and saw the axe was stuck in Nicole's head and Raphael was standing over her body.
He's got an axe and a machete?
Uh-huh. Well, he left the room to
What
go
did he
get
do
the
with
axe.
the gun?
So we'll get there. Okay. So the homeowner said when he returned to the room and the axe was hanging out of Nicole's head, he turned around, beat feet, and took off. Raphael,
police?
no. Raphael then forced Nicole's fiance Randall and a woman named Vanessa Vargas, she's Gizmo's girlfriend, forced Vanessa to take the gun and hold it at Randall's head and forced them to clean up the crime scene and dispose of Nicole's body.
Where did they put her body?
We're getting there. So they continued to dismember her body. They bagged up Nicole into black trash bags and stuck her into two 45-gallon containers.
Why
The
does
same time,
everyone have those on hand?
I don't know, but Jason has a couple of them down in the basement because he's a hoarder and has all of his toys from his childhood, and he occasionally pulls a couple out and gives them to the
Did you
kids.
check to verify that they're empty?
I did. They're not empty. They're full of
Oh.
toys.
Oh.
They don't have body parts in them, just toys. But still, I walked down in the basement yesterday because I was going to put out some holiday decorations. And when I saw those blue containers, it was like, just,
Everybody's got those.
they do to dispose of bodies. I'm
No,
scared
they
of
don't
what's going to
always
happen.
have them for that, but man, why do people have them on standby for just in cases?
I have no idea. So they bagged up her body parts and stuck them in these containers. And then they call a man named Stephen Cleveland to come dispose of the containers. And after they leave, Randall realizes he forgot to put his fiance's hands in with the rest of her parts. So he wraps them in plastic and puts them inside of a pot. Later, a witness said that when they returned to the home off of West Harlan, that person was approached with a crock pot. And when they were handed the crock pot, they opened it to see that it contained human hands with painted fingernails. The witness said that when they realized what was actually in the pot, they left the pot and took off. Stephen Cleveland and approximately 4 other people disposed of Nicole's bodies and dumped on the side of the road. Some of Nicole's body was found a few weeks later off of W.W. White Road in November of 2020 by Public Works crew member Oscar Flores. Oscar and his colleague were picking up trash in an area where people regularly illegally dumped their garbage. And he said the bags were easy to pick up, but then there was one bag when he went to lift it, it opened. And Oscar told the interviewer that he noticed hair, and it was long, thin hair, and what he would normally assume was a dead animal. But the more he looked at the hair that was sticking out of the bag, it looked too human to be animal. So he opens the bag to investigate. I couldn't imagine finding that.
Yeah.
How do you process that situation? I would really, really want it to be an animal. And as you're sitting there looking at a human skull, it's like, yeah,
Well,
no.
I wouldn't even want to open a crock pot and see hands.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't want to do that either. I don't know what they ended up doing with her hands in the crock pot. I don't believe that was ever recovered.
They eat them.
Inside the bags were pieces of cloth and napkins with blood all over them. They used cat litter, much like with an oil spill. You know, they say to put cat litter on an oil spill because you can scoop up the cat litter. Apparently, that's what they did with her blood.
For meth heads, that was actually a pretty good idea.
There was also a pair of shoes with Nicole written on the sides of the shoes. Stop labeling my clothes when I was in elementary school.
But you also didn't live with a group of people in a shed.
That's true.
I'm gonna say for homeless people, I feel like the few objects you do have, I think it'd be quite normal to have your name etched on them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, and not my whole with the methods using cat litter is a good idea. I suppose they use a lot of household items off-label uses.
Yeah, that's fair. And so the way they bagged her body up, they put her in the 2 blue 45-gallon tubs, right? Mm-hmm. And then they put the tubs inside of larger bags. So they put her body in bags, put the bags with her body in the tubs, and then bagged the tubs.
Whoa. So what bodybuilder said it wasn't heavy?
No, so I guess he said some of the bags were easy to pick up. And I'm guessing that would be the bags that had the cloth and the napkins and the cat litter and stuff.
Oh, I was gonna say
those were easy to pick up. And then when they went to probably pick up the other stuff and they were like, this shit's heavy, they probably opened it to see what the hell it was. But after Nicole's remains were found, Stephen Cleveland, the man that was called to dispose of the body, he apparently came forward to police officers and told them to go to that house off of West Harlan, and that there were 10 people at the house who ended up being detained by officers, and several of them told police the whole gory details of what happened to Nicole Perry. Just my opinion. I think the only reason that that guy Steven came forward was because he was afraid the evidence would connect him
And it
to
looked
her
like he did
murder.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, so he decided, "Oh shit, they found a body where I dumped one. I'm gonna come forward and be like, 'Hey, this wasn't me. I got roped into this. What kind of deal can you cut for me?'" And I don't know if he's ever charged with anything. I feel like the police had one heck of a mess to deal with. But
Well, what
police
happened to the feller that did it? Like, where
po-
was he the last several weeks?
police said other body parts were cut off as well, and not all of her parts have been found. I think that's her hands.
Yeah.
I think a crock pot's a lot easier to dispose of.
You would know, huh?
Yes, I threw away a crock pot.
Were there hands in it?
Nope. Rafael Castillo was arrested in December. So he murdered her in November. About a month later, he was charged with first degree murder and he was given a $500,000 bond. He was bonded out of jail for the entire 2 years leading up to the trial, but was put on a strict house arrest. I'm curious how you put a homeless person on strict house arrest. I don't know if he
Well,
stayed with a family member
whoever
or if
did that was a jackass anyway.
because
Okay,
he
we'll let you out. You're on house arrest, though. Way to, like, rub it in.
So I'm gonna guess that he had to have a house or somebody that was like, yes, he can stay with me till his trial,
Yeah, otherwise that makes it awkward.
right?
Please
During
provide the house address. The world.
during the trial, a witness testified, and I think it was the Stephen guy, but it doesn't say who it was. But during the trial, a witness testified that Raphael and another male asked him to move a large package. So I think, in my opinion, that's
The crock pot.
no, it's not a large package. I think Stephen testified that Raphael and the other male, I'm going to guess was Randall, the fiance, and they asked Stephen to move a large package. The witness said that himself and four other men put the package in the back of an SUV and dumped it on the side of the road. So to me, that's Stephen and whatever other menfolk they could gather to help dispose of. It was also revealed during the trial that Rafael Castillo has ties to the Mexican mafia.
That explains the machete.
It also explains being able to have people to call to dispose of things, you know?
No, I don't know.
Anyway, Raphael had friends and family that came to his defense, telling the jury that he was, in fact, a good person who's never murdered anyone before, and he deserves a break with his sentencing.
No.
That's not a good person. Sorry. Once you start dismembering people alive, you don't get to call them a good person.
Well, depends. Was it his reverend?
No, it was his friends and family.
Then don't count.
It took 2 years to go to trial, and after a week of the trial, the jury deliberated for 1 hour before they decided that Rafael Castillo was guilty of the brutal slaying of 31-year-old Nicole Perry. He was sentenced to 70 years in prison. He was
That's
not
it?
facing the death penalty.
70 years? That's it?
Oh, it gets better. He will be eligible for parole in 30 years.
How old is he?
27.
Um,
Mm-hmm. So this piece of shit's going to be able to get out and still do some damage. And also, on a side note, I did find, because I was trying to find more information about Nicole, I found a GoFundMe page for her daughters. And with that, it was written up, and I'm going to read you what that says. It says that Nicole Perry, she leaves behind three daughters, 15, 11, and 10, a mother, a sister who just lost their beloved grandfather, father, and ex husband in a horrific accident just a few months before this tragic loss. We would like the ability to assist them in giving Nicole a memorial that would help bring peace, closure, and healing to these girls and women, as well as assist her mother in getting on her feet as she fell and broke her pelvis in two places when she found out about the death of her daughter.
oh, shit.
Right? Like this poor family. Holy
That
shit.
was a fall. Did she fall down a flight of stairs?
No idea, but they also lost three individuals a month prior. This family, or a few months prior, this poor family. But that is my Rafael Castillo.
You can keep him.
Prison can
You
keep
just
him.
said he was yours.
My case. I done meant his case. I feel sorry for those daughters. I was trying to find out what happened, like who's got custody. But again, this case went to trial and he was sentenced in August of 2022. So there's
I
not a
feel
whole.
feel bad for them because I realized their mom wasn't cleaning up her act right then, but she was robbed of the opportunity to get her shit squared away and have a relationship with them.
Yeah. Also, doing the math, that means she was 16 when her 15-year-old daughter was born. So I feel like she really just, she was, had a tough path that she was on. And I wish for her daughter's sakes, like you said, that she was given the opportunity to get it together for them.
Which, by the
But
way, I know we've seen it in other cases where people like promise they won't go to the authorities and then they don't, which yay on you for having a great word that you can keep. But I feel like there's exceptions that can be made when it involves someone who's murdered or you just escaped with your life, that you can go to the authorities. No one's going to look down on you for breaking your promise.
so I completely agree. And I find it disgusting that 10 people, granted, one of those people is the man that commits the murder, but 9 other people witnessed this murder and no one went to the authorities until after her body is found.
Several
And
weeks. You cannot
and
tell me he wasn't sleeping at one point or another. I don't care how much drugs he's doing. He went to bed at some point, and that is the several windows of opportunity you can take yourself onwards and notify somebody.
now I realize I'm going to piss some people off possibly, but he is a fatty and I feel free in saying that because he's a piece of shit.
So you could
But
outrun him.
no, but well, yeah, but um I don't think he was doing the meth. And certain art I did, it was a 50-50 split on whether or not he actually lived in that shed. Other stuff said that I read that he was just a frequent visitor. So
He could have been
I'm
a drug
wondering if
dealer.
he was, yeah, if he was supplying the drugs to the homeowner to sell, and maybe all the lackeys that were staying there rent free were distributing it and also using it. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
the homeowner's getting a kickback because that's the place to sell it.
Well, I'm also wondering if the homeowner was Devin, that guy that helped him with that whole kidnapping and assault on the guy the year or 2 prior to this murder.
Mhm.
Because if that's his little lackey and they're in the Mexican mafia together, then it would make sense that the homeowner is allowing all this to take place in the home. Do you get where I'm
Yeah.
coming from? Like, I think that might be more of the situation, but nonetheless, I feel sorry for the daughters because I couldn't imagine finding out that your mom has been dismembered. Because realistically, they know with the way everything's on the internet these days, the 15-year-old, as long as she's got access to a smartphone or the internet, she knows what happened to her mother.
Yeah.
But that's our piece of shit of the week.
May he rot in jail.
I hope he doesn't get out on parole.
I'm actually disappointed in Texas for that one.
Right?
They're usually the heavy-handed.
I think because it was a known drug house, they just wanted to be done with this case. And since they only had the testimony of a bunch of meth heads, I don't know how much evidence they had against him. So they just took what they could get.
Mm,
I think that's why it wasn't the death penalty,
but
because it was never on the table.
he's probably gonna get out in his 50s.
Probably, which is disgusting.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's still hope that he could contract something in prison and have a short life. Thank you for listening to Homicide Hobbies. I'm Claire.
I'm Andy.
Follow us each week to get your fix of the atrocities that occur in true crime. And don't forget to tell people about us and rate us if you like us. But don't rate us if you didn't. Just change the channel.